You guys ready to go? Yeah? So my name's Tina Syer, and I work for a nonprofit called Positive Coaching Alliance. Today is literally my 14th anniversary with PCA. I know, February 1st. And when I started with PCA, I was the 4th employee. We now have more than 45 across the U.S. Our focus is high school and youth sports. And our founder, Jim Thompson, thought that he could sort of change the whole culture of high school and youth sports through the coaches. This was 15 years ago when he founded PCA, hence our name, and soon realized that without getting parents involved and athletes involved and officials involved, you can't change a culture. So now we go into high schools and clubs, and we do basically like sports psychology training for coaches and parents. So we're not the X's and O's. So I'm not here today to talk to you about ultimate and the X's and O's. I'm starting to learn a little bit of the lingo, but this is really about the art of coaching. And with that said, let me just see in the room, how many of you guys are coaching ultimate at the college level? Anybody coaching college? High school? Great. And then younger than high school, middle school? And any youth? Right. Some? Okay, under middle school. Okay. And then how many of you are still currently playing? Excellent. Okay. And then do we have any ultimate moms or dads in the room, parents of ultimate players? Thank you guys for overachieving and being here today. So what I'm going to do is jump into PCA's workshop, Becoming a Triple Impact Competitor. When you guys hear the word competitor versus the word participant, what is a competitor versus a participant? What's the difference? Okay, competitor's more intense. What else?
It implies you're competing against someone else. Like you could participate in anything, but there isn't competition.
Okay, right. So you could just sort of show up and participate, but competition is playing against someone else. Yep.
Winners and losers.
There are winners and losers. Okay. So one of the things that we also present this to high school student athletes is we talk to them about, anybody can show up and be a participant, but it's different to be a competitor. So that's what we're going to sort of talk about for about the next 45 minutes. I am not going to stand here and lecture at you. It's totally not my style or PCA's style. I want to get you guys involved with each other and as a group. So I want to take 1 minute for you to turn to someone next to you, preferably someone you don't know. So you might have to stand up if you sat with your buddies and talk about which athlete have you coached that you most enjoyed, and what was it about her or about him that you just loved coaching that athlete. So we're going to go 1 minute. Ready? Go. And I'm with you, Jim.
All right. So,
Tina,
hi,
good to see you.
Tina.
Yeah.
So tell me your experience first.
An athlete that I really loved coaching. So I feel like it's hard for me to pick one, but what it is like where I feel like they're a sponge, where I feel like I have a lot I want to share and give them, and at the time I spend with them, they're actually absorbing it. And time. All right, anybody willing to share not your own answer, but your partner's answer? And for extra credit, did you actually meet who your partner is, where they coach, their name? That's extra credit.
1 minute.
In 1 minute, yeah. So what did you hear? What was it that your partner loved so much about that athlete? Yes?
A combination of athleticism and spirit of the game.
Okay, so both athleticism and the right ethos, the right spirit of the game. Do you think you could try to open a window for us? Does anyone else feel warm? Yeah, that would be great. Okay, what else did you guys hear? Hi, Sam.
Hi.
A desire to learn.
Desire to learn, right? So when we're coaching them, we're seeing that they're soaking it up. They want to get better. A desire to learn. Awesome.
Improving.
Okay, so they're improving. Okay.
Not only the desire to learn, but they learn.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? What you love about that athlete? What are the most?
Player.
They're a team player. So what sorts of things do they do?
They want to improve the people around them.
Yep.
Focus on the team, not themselves.
Fantastic. And then do you have like an athlete who's very good at that and he does something or she does something specific?
He does.
Sorry, thank you.
Do what? Sorry.
Yeah, no, how they make their teammates better?
Just commitment to what the team wants to do and not trying to play on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And also when someone else is struggling, being involved in that person and helping that person get better.
Awesome. So when we're talking to high school athletes, we introduce this concept of a triple impact competitor. Most athletes spend the majority of their time here. How can I make myself better? right? And some of them are really amazing. They go above and beyond where they're working out on their own outside of practice. They're watching videotape. They're going to camp. They're doing all these things to make themselves better. But we say at the highest levels, a triple impact competitor also makes her teammates better and makes the game better. So we go through all three of these things. And the last thing I don't ever like to present without talking about the Latin roots of the word competition. Does anyone want to knock my socks off and tell me what the word competition means from its Latin roots? Okay.
Community.
Striving with. Okay, everyone always thinks it means competing against, right? That I'm in a competition to beat someone else. But the roots of this word is that I'm striving with someone else. So I want to play a good opponent because it'll make me play my best, right? That's the most fun game, is when I play an equally matched, tough opponent, striving with. So the first one, my favorite piece of sports psych research done by Joan Duda at the Sydney Olympics. She did this very simple study at the Olympics. She asked athletes before they went, some were team sports, some were individual sports, what's your goal for the Olympics? What do you think most athletes said for the Olympics, their goal for the Olympics? Winning gold, right? 55% said, I'm here to win the gold medal. The other 45% said something different, but they all sort of fell into the same kind of answer. Any other guesses what it would be? Do my best, right? So I want to feel like I left it all there. So I came to Sydney, I played my best, win or lose, I played my best. 2.5 weeks go by, Olympics are over, she looks at the medal count. Which group won more medals? Do my best, right? So part of what I want to say, when I come into places with a name like Positive Coaching Alliance, often I start off by saying, if you've never heard of Positive Coaching Alliance before, and you're going to sit for an hour listening to positive coaching, what do you think you're going to hear about for an hour? Be positive, right? I had an ice hockey coach raise his hand. It took me like a minute to get anyone to answer, and he said, a bunch of granola crunching liberalism from the San Francisco Bay Area. Because I think there's this perception that it's soft, give every kid a trophy, say good job no matter what. And that, yes, we want to focus on effort and giving 100%, but it doesn't mean we don't care about the scoreboard. So when we talk about having a double goal as a coach, I often, and I maybe here, if you can answer yes, you get an A+. How many of you, if I pointed to you, could tell me your coaching philosophy? You could just spit it out right now. You know your coaching philosophy. Maybe?
Are you going to point out something?
Let's go for it.
I just did talk about it.
Oh, great.
I want to make my players better people.
Ooh, that's pretty powerful. Right, so PCA's tagline is better athletes, better people. Right, so we really believe great coaches are going to make better ultimate players and ultimately better people. Right, no pun intended. Better people, so that's beautiful. So one of the things here is if you give 100% of your effort, you actually get the scoreboard result as well. So it's not like we can't care about the scoreboard. So mastery, let's see. Why do you think athletes who are more focused on their effort rather than just winning the gold medal, why did they perform better? Why did they win more medals?
Less pressure.
They felt less pressure?
Well, they're focusing on controllables.
Right.
Excellent.
Less thinking about the things outside of them that are irrelevant and that can get to you if you
Some
let them,
Yeah.
but aren't relevant.
Things that are under my control, right? And that as coaches, that's a huge part of our job, is getting our athletes to focus on things they can control, right? Not things outside of their control, like the official or the weather or the opponent. So scoreboard and mastery. For those of you who have coached or have kids and they have their uniform on, it's after a competition, they go into the local Jamba Juice or the local pizza place. Complete strangers come up to your kids when they're in uniform and ask them what question? Did you win, right? In our culture, we don't have to teach kids to want to win, right? That's not something we have to coach. They want to win, right? The majority of our society is focused over here. We focus on the results. If it's a soccer game or baseball, yes, we won. What's the next question?
Did you score?
What was the score? Did you score, right? Really, we're focused on the scoreboard. So this is not going away. And without this, there would be no competition. Why would it be fun, right, if we weren't competing? So yes, this is here, but what PCA thinks is, as coaches, we have to get our athletes more focused on the mastery definition, which is every game, I want my players to feel like they gave 100% effort, they're always learning and improving. This is important for your very best player, right? If she's your very best player and she's comparing herself to everybody else, why should she strive to get better? But it's your job as a coach to say, what do you want to be able to do in 2 weeks that you can't do today? So every athlete on your team, if you ask them what skills they should do in 2 weeks they can't do today, they should be able to tell you. So I think of coaches as like a talent scout, and every single one of your athletes needs a different goal, right? So what can you do in 2 weeks you can't do today? And then in this environment, when you're asking your athletes to do something they're not comfortable with, right? I'm learning my terms slowly. Is it the crab or the lobster? What do you guys call it? And the catching? Okay. Okay, the pancake versus the lobster. And you're telling your kids, like, I really want you to get better at that one-handed lobster catch, and they're afraid because they're going to fail. We need to create an environment where they're striving really hard at things they're not good at, and they're going to make mistakes. So one of my friends coached basketball, and her gym was a mistake-making place. The kids would come in, and she'd say, hey, you're at a mistake-making place. Because as a coach, if you look at your practice and you see 0 mistakes, what kind of practice are you having? No mistakes.
No learning.
Safe, no learning, no challenge, too easy, right? Deborah Stipek did research at Stanford where she talks about the just right challenge, where kids, if they're put in a room with puzzles, if they do puzzles that are way too easy or way too hard, they lose their focus and they don't stay focused. But when you get them the right puzzle that's one outside of their reach, suddenly they're dialed in and they stay focused. So I think for coaches, that's our hard job, is how do you find the just right challenge for every one of your athletes, right, where they're going to be making mistakes. All right. So what we know is that in the mastery climate, anxiety goes down, self-confidence goes up, and thank you, this was John said this already. Mastery, you can control everything on this side as an athlete. How much effort you give, are you challenging yourself to learn new things, and how you respond to mistakes. So if we can get our athletes' minds over here, they feel more control and they stick to it longer and play harder. Any more comments or questions about this part? This is sort of a important sports psych piece. Mastery tools. My favorite PCA tool, the mistake ritual. Anybody familiar with this, the mistake ritual? Okay, when your athletes make a mistake at practice or during a game, where do they usually look? Down or at you?
They apologize.
Sometimes they apologize.
100% of the time they apologize.
Okay, they're very polite. So they apologize. Often what athletes do is they look at their coach, and I had a very humbling experience where I saw myself on videotape coaching, and here I am, Miss PCA, full-time, 14 years, and my field hockey players would make a bad pass, and I would do this, and I had no idea till I saw myself on videotape. So I would challenge you guys who are coaches, you probably videotape your athletes a lot and like break down their play. Turn that video on yourself for 15 minutes when you're coaching. The amount you will learn about yourself watching that video, it's incredible. Teachers videotape themselves, we should do it too. So I would do this. So my player would shank a shot, look at me, and then I would be doing this. So now instead we talk about a mistake ritual, which they make a bad pass, they flush it, right? That's what PCA, our mistake ritual, we always talk about because little kids love this idea of flushing a mistake. Kindergartners do it. Junior college basketball players are a little more cool. They'll be like, Matt, right? Sort of, some people do brush it off, no sweat. Julie Foudy, women's soccer player, she wears a rubber band. When she would make a bad play, she'd snap it. What else have I seen? Let it go. Anybody else seen any mistake rituals now that you know what I'm talking about? What's that one?
It's a mental check-in. Like,
yeah.
You visualize this, is it leaving you? I just see people do.
Okay.
They do, I mean, with my team, they parking.
Park the mistake.
So they park where they do.
Yeah. Yep. And that one is fun for coaches too, because sometimes coaches say to me, well, Tina, don't you care if your players are making a mistake? Don't you want to coach it? And I say, yes, absolutely. Maybe not right at that moment during the game, but we talk about parking a mistake and coming back to it at practice, right? So I'm not going to be yelling coaching in the game in that moment to correct something, but I'm going to park it and come back to it later. I love that. Matt?
My team has adopted, we played the Japanese a lot, and
Yeah.
I always was impressed how they never got angry. They would always do this, like laugh. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But we all started doing that. So
Yeah.
all the players from that year, they'll turn it over and they go like that. And it's really funny to see someone doing that
Okay.
on the field while they're running to, play
As long as it's not racially insensitive, I'm totally cool with that.
Okay, he's Asian.
Okay, so it's totally fine. Got it. Okay. Yes.
I use what's next. So
Yeah.
instead of fixating on a mistake, I have to think
What's
ahead.
next?
What's happening now.
I love that, right? So this is the idea of focusing forward. And often what players do is they make a mistake and then they ruminate, right? And they replay that mistake over and over again. So the next time they're making the same play, they're nervous, they're tight, and they won't make the play. One of PCA's catchphrases is, what's the most important play? You know what it is? The next play, right? What's the most important play? The next play, right? That's what I can control, not what just happened. So I would encourage you to incorporate this idea of a mistake ritual on your entire team so there's a shared ritual. And then if each player wants to make her own or her, whatever, they can do their own. But one shared ritual where 80 yards away, they can see you and you can look at them and say, flush it, right? Coach is still with me, right? Flush it. Let it go. The next one is effort goals. And most of the goals we set in sports are outcome goals. What sort of statistics do you guys keep in Ultimate? We'll see if you guys line up with other sports or not. Say it again.
Turns, scores, right.
So do these things sound like outcome goals or effort goals? Outcome goals. All right. So does anyone here have something that you think would fit into the category of an effort goal? And I'm going to say in Ultimate, an effort goal might be working really hard off the disc to be in the right space. So I'm working really hard to be off, off ball or off disc in the right space. That's an effort goal. I'm working hard. If I give 100% effort, I can always be in the right place. There's nothing that will stop me from being in the right place, whether or not I catch the disc, make the score. Yes?
We had one where you would sort of time how long the offense took to score on your defense, and the longer it took, obviously the harder it was for them to score.
Okay. I like that. I think it's an outcome goal. I do like that, though, because it's sort of like, how long did it take, and are we getting better or worse? Mike, what are you going to say?
On the Stanford team,
Yeah.
we had a policy that you had to pivot at least once every time you caught the disc.
That's an effort goal, right?
Which sets up, throws later on.
Great.
Gets your mark off balance.
Great. So also, it could be things like I'm going to work on my throwing and catching X amount of time outside of practice. So before I see you next time, I want to make sure you put in 20 minutes of throwing and catching before I see you again at an official practice. That's an effort goal. Okay? So an effort goal is something that your players can always control whether or not they achieve it. Has nothing to do with the luck of the draw, who they're playing. They could always achieve it if they give 100% of their effort. Does that make sense? Let's try to come up with one other one for Ultimate. So off-ball movement, pivoting once, practice outside of practice, throwing and catching. What else could it be for Ultimate?
I was talking about trying to get in position early, like trying to, be set up before the disc is touched in or something. I'm not sure if it's measurable or if these have to be measurable, but.
Jogging after a turnover, maybe.
Better sideline teammate?
Great, right? So
More talk, more focused, good advice from the sideline?
are we up, vocal, involved, focused on the game?
Supposed to be.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
sure.
But that's an effort goal. What the bench looks like is an effort goal. That's a great one, right? So as a coach, I challenge you to coach to effort goals, not just to outcome goals. And if you coach these effort goals, they will help you win, right? They will help you achieve the outcome goals. Like in basketball, one thing is we're going to drive to the basket at least 12 times this quarter. We may or may not score, but we're going to drive. Nobody can stop us. We're going to try to drive to the basket, right? So is there a certain play you want to try to execute X number of times, right, in the game? And then keeping the statistic, actually having your effort goals and recording them and checking in on them. The last one, fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Has anyone ever heard of Carol Dweck's book, Mindset? Yeah? So one of the things she talks about is kids often have a fixed mindset about things. Like, I was born and I'm just not good at throwing the disc. No matter what I do, I'm never going to be good at throwing the disc. Or I'm just not good at chemistry. No matter how hard I try, I'm going to be bad at chemistry. And you have all these realms in your life where you sort of believe you're either good or bad at them. That's a really fixed mindset. I was either born good or not. And what Dweck has shown is you can shift someone's mindset to a growth mindset, which is, what would be the difference? That with a growth mindset, if I work hard on it, I can get better. That's what I believe is, if I work hard on my throwing, I can actually improve. That's a growth mindset. What she's shown, which is so cool, is that parents and coaches, the way we talk to our athletes can shift their mindset. So if you have a brand new kid come out for Ultimate, who right off the bat, that child can throw so well, what could you say to that child that would reinforce a fixed mindset? If right off the bat he throws a disc really well. You're a natural, right? Wow, you're a great athlete, you're a natural, right? So what does that do to him once he finds something that's hard about the sport? Right? Maybe I'm not a natural, right? And they're not going to try as hard. What could you say to reinforce a growth mindset within Ultimate? Rather than a fixed, but a growth mindset. What could you say to your athletes after a game or a practice? Okay, so you pick a specific thing, right? And
Your backhand's getting better.
Right. All that work you put in last week on your backhand, I really see it paying off at practice, right? You could also help seed this for the parents who may not know the sport as well, right? Your daughter, your son's been working on this part of their game. Look how far they've come on this part of their game. So being really careful about what we praise and how we praise, and not just saying good game or you're a great ultimate player, but like all the work you put in, reinforcing a fixed versus a growth mindset. Someone willing to read this one for me? Chris Mullen quote, former Warrior.
Someone read it? Oh, go ahead.
It always bugs me when people call me a natural shooter. I spent many years in a gym working hard to become a natural shooter.
Now, why did this bother Chris Mullen so much when people called him a natural shooter? Right, all of that hard work, right? And he feels like no one cares about that piece. All right, we're gonna, Summer Sanders.
In 1988, I was at the Olympic trials. I was 15, and I missed making the Olympic team by 27 100ths of a second. And I was actually winning the race up until about 35 meters when I noticed that I was winning, and I freaked out. And so I started thinking about everything that I shouldn't be thinking about except just swimming. And 2 girls passed me, and I missed by just a little bit. And I was fine with it. Everyone, called it, a failure. Oh, you must be so sad about it. But taking that quote-unquote failure and learning from it was probably the most important thing that I did in swimming and in my career. Because every day for the next 4 years of my swimming career and my swimming life, I would race everyone into the wall. No matter if they were doing the same set that I was doing, if we were coming into the wall at the same time, I wanted to touch the wall before them because I never wanted to experience getting touched out at the wall again. So the big mistake that people could do in that instance was to be devastated by missing the team by 27 100ths and not learning from any of it. If you can't take an experience on the field or on the court or in the pool and learn from it and be better next time, then you're missing a huge gift that sports gives you. And I use that in my daily life, every single day. I think that sometimes it's hard to learn from failure and sometimes it's hard to learn from success. You take both of those, and if you can deal with them properly and become better because of them, then you're getting out of sports what you should.
So I think this just highlights the huge gift that you can give your athletes, which is how do they respond in the moment when they make a mistake during a competition and the eyes are on them? How do they respond when they're facing something tough at practice? And you guys have total control over the culture you shape, so just making it into the place where kids can learn to bounce back from mistakes. So let's see, this shifts us into the second piece, making your teammates better. John, why don't you read this one?
There are people who bring you down in life, and then there are people who bring you up. You want to be around the ones who fill your tank. We had a lot of them on the team.
So this is Julie Foudy, and I mean, I can just tell from today, from being around this sport and you guys, like you have a really tank-filling feeling, and maybe it's self-selection of who would come out on a Saturday to this conference, but you just feel like the positive energy and the excitement around this sport. So you may be a natural tank-filling environment, but we talk a lot to coaches and kids about when you have a full emotional tank, that you're going to go a lot farther. In fact, let me go to my next slide. If you have kids who are constantly being told specific things they're doing well, their teammates are picking them up, their tank fills and they feel much more optimistic. They want to try new things. They're more open to learning versus, your kids when they come to practice and they've had a bad day and they're just sort of dragging, like almost dragging their backpack, and you can tell as a coach it's going to be a tough day. They come to practice with their tank filler drained based on different things. And what we want to do as coaches is try to get them more full so they're more coachable. Before I do my show here, if I'm playing Ultimate and I'm in, is it the end zone? You guys call it the end zone? Yeah. I'm in the end zone and it's coming right to me and I have an easy chance for a pancake and it comes in and it bounces off my chest and hits the ground. I want you guys to do your best in this moment to drain my tank and bring me down to the ground the best you possibly can. Ready? Go, drain my tank.
What the hell? Where do you want it? What did you do?
Don't throw to hurt.
Ooh. Nice catch, grass. Okay. So is there an ultimate drainer in this moment that a coach can do? The ultimate drainer in this moment? Sub, right? Tina, sub. You cut me from the team entirely. Thank you, Mike. We see how you do it at Revolver. Right. Right. So sub, right, in the moment. Could you guys drain my tank without making any sound? Yeah, try it for a second. Drain my tank, no sound. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so in this moment, I must have done something right if I'm in the end zone and I'm open enough to receive this, but it bounces off my chest and hits the ground. I feel terrible. I've let my teammates down. What I need more than anything in this moment is actually to have my tank filled. Can you guys fill my tank in this moment? Ready? Go.
Great coach.
It's all good. Come right back.
Keep it up, keep working.
You get another chance.
Flush it. Okay, that's better than most groups. Did you guys feel like one of those was easier than the other one?
Well, it's easier to drain.
It's always easier to be negative, I feel.
It was easier to be negative?
But it's not what you should do.
Right, right. You guys were positive.
I agree with that, especially coming from a basketball background. Definitely, it's easier to be negative. But from ultimate frisbee, I've only been around the sport a few years, but more often than not, I hear great cut, get it back.
Nice.
Rather than what the fuck. is
Yep,
wrong with
yep.
you, you know?
That's true about
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's natural. I think it's
Yeah.
I would think this group would be different than a lot of the groups you work with.
Yep.
'Cause knowing a lot of these folks in our coaching.
Yep.
It's part of our principles.
Great. Yep.
I was just gonna say, I think that the natural emotion in that situation is to go, oh shoot, that
Right.
happened. And then you have to work through that to get to the high fives the right next time.
Right,
You
right.
have to move through it. So
Right.
it's two steps
Yep.
rather than stopping after the first.
And I do think you guys are more evolved than a lot of the other sports that we work with, and I also think you're adults, and so the youth you're working with, that might not be their knee-jerk reaction about like that they're going to go pick that person up or tell them they're going to get the next one or nice cut. So coaching that and also modeling it on the sideline, even if you're disappointed in the moment, is a really big thing. I think when we talk about what fills or drains, one I would warn about here is sarcasm is a drainer, nice catch, right? Or whatever, like we're trying to be funny, we're trying to make light of it, but sarcasm can be a drainer. Also ignoring, often the players that aren't coachable or the ones we're having more trouble getting through to, we'll start to ignore those players because we just feel like, gosh, every time I try to coach, is it Philip or Philippe? Philip, it's not getting through to him, so I'm going to spend my time with Matt because Matt's getting it, and I start ignoring, and that's a powerful drainer, right? So ignoring can be a drainer, and then finally your nonverbals. And then the one thing I want to highlight here is to be truthful and specific. I pick on my mom on this one, where whether I was 5 playing AYSO soccer or like 27 playing indoor soccer, she would say, Tina, nice game. After every game I played, Tina, nice game. And I'm just like, okay, and I didn't always think I played a nice game. Then she came to my talk, and now she'll say, like, nice tackle at the end of the third quarter, right? So no matter what, you can find something they did well, even if they were on the sideline, if they're injured and they didn't play, there's something they did well that helped your team that day. So finding it truthful and specific, and if you honestly can't find a positive, then you're just quiet, right? You're not going to make it up. Kids are the fastest at smelling like things, nice game, So truthful and specific. And we talk about this tool of the magic ratio. There is some research debate if this should be 3-to-1 or 5-to-1, but you get the idea that you need 3 to 5 positive, specific tank fillers for every time you correct or drain a kid's tank. So if you're telling someone, really that pivot, nope, it's not working, you need to be doing this differently, that's good coaching, you need to do it, but that puts one down, and then you got to find 3 things that are going well, and it's a culture. So it's not just you as the coach, it's what are they hearing from the sideline, what are they hearing from their teammates. Honestly, when Sam shows up to practice, when I say to Sam, great to see you, I'm so glad you're on time with all your equipment on. Man, I just scored like 2 or 3 right there, right? I used her name. Kids love to hear their own name, right? And I'm telling her, so filling the tank, getting to a 5-to-1. And I got to say, I'm pretty type A and competitive. I heard that. There are like 15 athletes on a field hockey team, and I did my math. And I was like, that's 75 positives just to give one correction to each athlete. So I can't do that by myself, right? I need my assistant coaches, my parents, my team to help in that kind of environment. Any blinks on this ratio of 5-to-1?
What was your question?
Any flash, like blinks, ideas, feedback on 5-to-1? I have one other thing I want to say. I heard it, and I thought it was like fluffy cheerleading. I was like, that's 5 pieces of fluffy cheerleading for every 1 piece of coaching. And then I came to realize, no, it's 5 reinforcements of things you like, right? So is it Rick? Rick, I really love that cut. That was beautiful, right? I really love the way that you got up so high and brought the disc down, right? All of this, those are all 5 positives, and it's reinforcing things I want to see again. Way to mark so tightly on defense. That's awesome, right? That's good coaching. Often young kids don't even know what they're doing well, right? So to say the things you want to keep seeing, that's building up your 5. It's not just rah-rah 5 and one piece of coaching. Yeah.
Do you think that this holds true for like team feedback too? Like if you're not speaking specifically to one person, but
Yeah.
sort of coaching a drill as a team as well?
So give me a specific example.
Like you're saying,
Team huddle.
yeah, in a team huddle, or you're saying, oh, good job, guys, like nice throws to the open side,
Mhm.
and then you say one piece of feedback to the group.
Yeah.
Those things.
I would say that I think one of the biggest errors I made as a young coach, I started coaching in college, is that I thought at halftime I should tell my team everything they needed to change for the second half because I had the superior mind about the sport. So my kids would come in and they'd be respecting me and I'd say, you need to get the ball to the right side of the field, you need to release it sooner, you need it. And basically I was telling them everything they were doing wrong. And then they went out and they'd play like crap, right? And here, because I've drained their tank all of halftime. So I would say I try to give a ton of specific positives. Let's keep seeing this. These are all the things we're doing great. Keep it up in the second half. And let's make sure we do this, right? 1 or 2 things different for the second half. But that's about it, right? That coaching that you can give. So I would say, yes, you do want to get there. Yeah.
The mistake I think people make with the 5 to 1 is they assume that every one they give will work, or that it's, and like you were just saying actually.
Yeah.
So I want to give a bunch of feedback,
Yeah.
and anything over 1 is not going to work probably anyway. So the challenge ends up being, how about just don't do any of the 1? Like
Wow.
try to go only to what's working,
Mm-hmm.
and then, or if you're going to get to the 1, ask first.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Yes.
I'm going to give you all the good stuff.
Yep.
And then, if you're still hungry for more,
Mhm.
do you want more?
Mhm.
And then see if
So I love that. And where I thought you were going to go is saying to your team, what do you guys think
And
we
that's
need
it.
to do differently,
Yeah.
right? Or saying to one of your athletes, most of the time they know they made a mistake. What are you going to do differently the next time that happens? They tell you. Much
build
easier,
coaches, is what
right?
you're doing.
Right?
Yeah.
Building coaches.
Can I
Yeah.
The other thing about this, because we actually had a healthy discussion about, at an elite level, do they really need 5 to 1? Is it really 5 to 1? I think the point here too is it doesn't have to be 5 verbal things
No.
from you.
No, right.
It's the head nod when they caught the goal, or the eye contact.
Yep.
That all counts. It's 5 tank filling things.
That's right.
So it doesn't have to be 5 pieces of praise that you ticked off.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I'm really glad you guys dressed to match today, too. It's awesome. Okay. So another really good thing that my high school players loved was this idea of a winner's circle. So after the game, when we're stretching and we're cooling down, I would literally have someone hold the field hockey ball and comment on the game, and specifically comment on something a teammate did well. So in that moment, I'm saying, gosh, Daniel did an amazing job distributing the ball, right? Goes to the next person. She may not comment on me. She can comment on anyone in the circle. And as the coach, I go last. So the ball makes it all the way around. I go last. What's my job as the coach when I get the ball at the end? Yeah, so I'm keeping an eye on, gosh, no one ever said anything about Kyle. I better be ready with something for Kyle. The second or third time you do this, the kids will not forget anyone, right? They're right away, they get everybody. And this, no matter if you lost the game or you won it, this ends on a really high note that, wow, we did do a lot well. Even if we lost on the scoreboard and my teammates see that I did something well. What are you going to say, John?
Do that before a game, too.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Especially in a tournament situation, it's really effective if you practice that skill before the big game.
Yep.
It has the same effect, although you don't have to wait until after results.
And then the last one I think is really tank filling for athletes is, as the coach, this is another rookie coaching mistake I made. The game would end, I'd get everybody together, and I would tell them what I thought of the game. Because I'm the most important person, I'm the coach. I would talk first. And I learned, no, the best thing to do post-game is to ask the team, how do you guys think we did? What did we do well? What do you think we need to work on? Let the team go first, right? If you speak first as the coach and then you go around, what are you going to hear back? Same thing you said, right? So I think it's wonderful to have the athletes start thinking about it. And it causes them to think about being a coach, right? What would I say in this moment? What did we do well, right? You're not just feeding them all of that. Any other thoughts about the emotional tank? All right. This is actually going to be a 4-hour workshop. I hope you guys are fine with that. Okay. Jack Clark, who's going to do this one? Anyone with good eyesight over here?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
We define leadership as the ability to make those around you better. This is accessible to everyone, not just the most charismatic or best player. It's a requirement of our team that every player possess some leadership and try to make those around him better.
Awesome.
Him or her better.
Yes. Jack coaches college men, so he's all about the guys. So he talks about leadership is simply making those around you better. So every single athlete on Jack's team, even if they're a freshman, can be a leader, because what's he doing to make those around him better? Here's Doc Rivers. Let's hear from Doc about this.
In our culture, on our team, we have a phrase called Ubuntu. A person is a person through other people. I can't be all I can be unless you are all you can be. That belief system is through our entire team. So I may not be a leader, or a player may not be a leader, but he understands the only way he can achieve what he wants to achieve is he has to make his teammates better, his players better, my coaches better. And that's the Ubuntu philosophy. That is a form of leadership. If Kevin Garnett is out on the floor helping Rajon Rondo with his shooting, Kevin Garnett is being Ubuntu, and that's what we say in our culture.
So I think the big thing here is just using the tank metaphor, and you don't have to call it an emotional tank, but talking to your players about we're responsible for each other's tanks. Everything we say to each other is either filling or draining the tank. And we want a culture, people love to come play here, and they love it, and they feel like their tank is filled by each other. Now I'm going to go through this one really fast. This is something that high schools talk to us about. They said, PCA, we really need you guys to be doing something around hazing. This is a bigger and bigger problem at the high school level, and I think even in club sports it's getting to be a bigger issue. Anybody in the room familiar with what hazing in sports means? What does it mean? You don't have to get it just right, but what do you think of when you hear the term hazing? Initiating rookies. Perfect, right, initiating rookies. So I want to have you guys vote. If you think that pressuring new team members to eat or drink specific things at team initiation events is hazing, please stand. Okay, stay standing if you agree that these things are hazing. Requiring freshmen to always carry the equipment, is that hazing? If you think it isn't, sit down. So a lot of people. So, you're stealing my thunder, but yes. So hazing is the idea of harassment or abuse to initiate a player into a new team or group. Okay, conducting talent shows among teammates where different grades compete on their own teams. Is that hazing? Some people say it depends on how the talent show is conducted, but most people sit down on that one. Forcing players to get a specific haircut. Is that hazing? All right. Pressuring new players to wear embarrassing clothes around campus. Is that hazing? People think that's hazing. Okay, great. Take a seat. Okay. So hazing is the practice of rituals and other activities involving harassment, abuse, or humiliation used to always initiate a person into a group. Does that change your answer on any of these? No? Does anyone think this is an issue with any of the teams you're coaching where you've heard about hazing activities happening? Is this an issue for you at all? Okay.
Club sports.
Okay. Club sports. So when a new person comes on to the Ultimate team, none of this stuff is happening.
Well, I think partly people choose Ultimate because they want to avoid some of this stuff.
Great.
Yeah, we just don't have it in our culture.
At least not.
Wait, this definitely happens
Yep.
at college level.
Right.
We're a youth coaching conference.
Yeah, no. So this is good. So what we're finding is that more and more of the high schools that we work with, this is an issue at the high school level. And I think, we talked to our National Student Athlete Advisory Board, and I said, what are some examples of this you guys are seeing at the high school level? And one of the things I learned, now I have good street cred, because I talk about the cinnamon challenge. Anyone ever heard of the cinnamon challenge? So this is really common hazing. 1 tablespoon of cinnamon, you try to eat it in a minute with no water, and people have had terrible health outcomes. But this is happening, right? Because they inhale the powder, inhale the cinnamon by mistake. So I would just say, keep this in the back of your mind. If this is not something that you're facing now, this is the kind of thing that's encroaching more and more on high school sports.
It's definitely coming.
Yeah. Mike doesn't believe me, but let me tell you, this is happening on cross-country teams, and obviously football and soccer at the high school level. So be ready, and what we talk about, when I talk to kids, they'll often say that hazing actually helps them because it helps bring the team together, right? It forges people's entry onto the team, and it makes them one of the team members. And what the research says is that actually most people who are hazed have really bad, depression, eating problems, drop off these teams. It's bad news. So it's really not going to help your team. So I like to make sure high school students get that piece And we'll skip you, Pat Fitzgerald. Actually, you know what? Let me tell you about Pat. He's the head football coach at Northwestern, and he talks about how he does not let any hazing happen. He pairs up seniors with incoming freshmen. They're like the big brother, and they initiate them into the program. So maybe you guys could try that, right, on your high school or club teams. Yes?
I think the biggest argument against hazing is that there's lots of better, more positive ways to do team building.
Gosh, you could present this.
I do. Sorry.
Fabulous. Okay. So let me ask you guys, what do you do that you could share with the rest of the group that's good team bonding activities with your team, like shared best practices to bring the team together? Yeah.
Camping trips.
Say it again?
Camping trips.
Camping trips. Yep.
We went to the trampoline. I don't know if you all have it, but like the warehouse where they just like lay down trampolines. And then they have a foam pit and layouts.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other good team bonding? Yeah.
Well, we always, I mean, just typical team dinners or before the events and stuff, but we always do like a retreat where we go away and we lay down a rule that you cannot say anything negative all weekend. You know, and you can only be positive with each other.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
It's really awesome.
I want to hit the rewind button for just a second and ask if anyone in the room is willing to admit this. Does anyone in here make the rookies or the new players on the team deal with the equipment? Like that's their job?
Nobody here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Make the captains do it. So I would just, and I think it's just important to think about why do we do that, right? And these are the new players to the team that are sort of trying to figure everything else out. Why are we also asking them to carry the equipment? And usually the older players really like it because they had to do it. And they're like, this is our tradition, right? I had to do it, now I want you to do it. And I'm like, well, did you like it when you were a freshman? No. Well, why are we doing this, right? So just to question some of those things that feel like tradition. And are they positive traditions that you as the head coach really want to keep going in your program? Let's see. I always challenge the high schoolers to stand up against this kind of hazing. Even if it's just to say, like the cinnamon challenge, I had a senior who looked at a sophomore and said, I think this is stupid and you don't have to do it. She gave that sophomore an out, right? The minute she said that, that person had an out. So asking kids to stand up. Mike, yes?
We don't really do it on Revolver to avoid hazing, but I think it has the same effect. Every year for the last 4 years, we've actually had a session early in the season where we talk about our fears.
Fears.
And I think with that serves to let everybody know that everyone is vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right, and also we then problem solve around how can we, avoid those fears in the future. But it humanizes everybody on the team.
Yeah.
And it really introduces them.
Yeah.
And it makes hazing not a possibility. Right?
Cool. And I think that is team bonding, right? You're getting vulnerable, you're sharing. That's big. All right. So bullying can happen to anyone at any time. Hazing is really around entrance to a new team. We talk about honoring the game, which in a way I feel like gets a little bit close to your spirit of the game. But we talk about this acronym of ROOTS, which since I have literally 5 minutes, we're going to blow through this. But these are things you want your players to respect about the game. So what the first thing is something you only have at the highest, well, respecting the rules, obviously. I actually was getting to officials. You only have that at the highest level of your sport, right, where there are actual referees. So I think you guys are sort of ahead of the game. Observers or observers.
You have to respect your team.
Okay.
They're your opponents.
Yeah.
They're the officials.
So are there issues with respecting the observers?
Sure.
Yeah?
When they're horrible.
When they're bad, right? Well, then this is good. I thought maybe this was a non-issue for Ultimate, but what do you guys do to foster a really good environment around respecting the observer? Do you guys do anything specific?
Team, you mean?
Yeah, as a coach.
Well, the thing is, most youth coaches don't deal with observers.
I've never, in 7 years of coaching Ultimate, have dealt with a observer.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
I've never had an observer.
But go to Phil's point, which is that we have 7-on-7, everyone's making calls, so we functionally have 14
Yes,
officials on
exactly.
the field.
That's pretty interesting.
So the root of it is how do you respect each other when you make a call?
Respecting the calls.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think just recognizing that the two O's are the same.
In Ultimate, that's
Right,
really
yeah,
interesting.
It's rot,
It's
Zach.
really
Yeah.
important.
We're rotting away.
That's funny, rot. So one thing here, which I often tell coaches of other sports, and it might actually work for you guys now that you've said this, is I will tell coaches in other sports, when you're scrimmaging at practice, blow a call on purpose, just to see how your athletes react, right? And are they able to play through it and keep their focus on the next play, or do they get totally bent out of shape? So if you're scrimmaging and you blow a call on purpose, see how your team responds. I think it's a really good teachable moment. Let's see here, teammates and self. What else do I want to highlight here? I think teammates, this is about like not just respecting your teammates when you're at practice or at a tournament, but when you see them at school, that we're teammates all the time, right? It's not just when we're out on the ultimate field. And then teachable moments. As coaches, I think it's not just within ultimate, but the greater society at large. There are just an infinite number of teachable moments about what's honoring the game or shows the spirit of the game versus what doesn't. And like, I mean, does anyone know, like within the last 2 weeks, there's been one story dominating the headlines from a sports perspective around honoring the game or dishonoring the game? Anyone? Sherman, right? Richard Sherman. I mean, it's everywhere. And what a great opportunity for you to talk to your athletes or your kids about, did that behavior honor the game? If you were in that position, what would you have done? In the sport of ultimate, would you ever see that happen? But just a great chance to have a conversation, right?
I teach that.
You teach that?
I teach the story.
Tell the story.
This is the best sport story I've ever heard. It was like a semifinal or something, final of the D3 softball game, and the girl that's right there in the middle there, she was a pitch hitter, and she had to come in, and she came in and she hit the first home run of her entire life. And she starts rounding the bases, and she was so excited that she missed first base. She stopped, planted, and tried to come back to touch it, and she ripped her ACL. And she fell down on the ground screaming in pain. And then what happened is that it was going to be, so the tying score came in, and it was going to be, leading score. And the captain of the other team, well, the coach went over to the ref and said, "Can we do anything? Can I bring out a pitch runner?" The ref said, "Well, if you do, then they just got to be on first base. You bring in somebody for her."
It counts as a single.
Counts as a single. And so then the captain of the other team, which I believe is the girl on the right, okay, she went running over to the ref and said, "Can we pick her up?" And like the ref was like dumbfounded by this. He's like, no, like he had to go through the rule book in his head, and he's just like, "There's no rule that says you can't." So she ran over and grabbed one of her teammates. They picked her up, and they took her around, and she tapped every one of the bases with her foot, and she scored the run to take the lead.
Yeah, yeah.
That was amazing.
Well told. Yeah, well told.
I told her.
Yeah. And when we talk to kids about this, we say, Mallory Holtman, the woman on the right, she was asked, "Why did you do it?" And she said, "Well, she hit a home run. She deserved it." Like, it was so obvious. And I'll say, "Well, would you have seen the same behavior if it was like the A's playing the Giants?" Right? Like, no chance, right? This idea of there's something bigger than the game and bigger than the final score. So not every teachable moment has to be a negative one. Of Richard Sherman, like it can be Diana Nyad on her 5th try at age 64, making it from Florida, or from Cuba to Florida, right? Never giving up, making that swim. There's so many of them, making sure we utilize them from outside of our sport. And so the last thing is just me asking you, share this model, right? This idea of being a triple impact competitor and not just making yourself an awesome ultimate player, but your teammates and raising the whole sport. Because I really feel, I thought this before I got here today and even more after listening to Mike, it may not feel like it, but I think you guys are the pioneers of your sport, right? And to look at where you are now and your desires to grow the game, and in the other panel we talked about where soccer was 30 years ago. You guys have a tremendous opportunity, and you're really the ones carrying the spirit of the game and the game on your shoulders. And so I'd love to sort of figure out how PCA and Ultimate can work more together, because I think Ultimate, this is what we're looking for, right? Better citizens, right? Even when they're done playing Ultimate and they're 60, are they better people for what they did through Ultimate? And let's see. We have a scholarship program. If you have any juniors who you coach, that would be awesome. Let's go ahead and get them signing up for our scholarship, and I think I'm out pretty much on time. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks. Thank you. You guys, I have a couple, don't feel pressure at all to take them. I have a few PCA newsletters, so if you just want like our website or any more information, I'll set them. I'll pass them. Here, Sarah.
Tina, how, your typical audience?
Yeah.
Do you see a huge difference from sport to sport, or are most coaches receptive to your message? Huge variance. And I was saying before that we encourage organizations to mandate the training, because if it's not mandated, no one will come. Because everyone thinks I know everything I need to know about coaching. It's a weeknight, they're volunteers. So it's mandated. So we'll often go into a room full of coaches who are not happy to be there, who have their arms crossed and want to know where the sign-in sheet is. And within 10 minutes, they get that we're not all just granola crunching puffy cloud liberalism, and that we're about like better performance and more fun in the sport and character building. So usually
that's the most, I think that's the most fulfilling thing as a trainer, is to come into an audience that's not receptive and show them what it is and that their job is much bigger than just teaching a sport. But not everybody is receptive, no, not at all.
You have online resources as well, right? Like
Yes.
you can earn points anyway,
Yeah.
for having people participate in it.
We don't have a point-based system, but we have a ton of online tools for coaches, parents, and athletes that are just free for download. Yeah.
I'm just curious about those two books that you brought out here.
Yeah.
And could you just talk a little bit about what each one addresses?
Yeah, so I brought, I couldn't bring enough for the entire group, but every one of our trainings, we do trainings for coaches, we do trainings for parents, trainings for student athletes. Every one of those workshops is accompanied by one of those short books. So typically, everyone in the room would leave with like a 50-page book that basically, like, this is like, I'm really trying to hook you to read the book, you know, give you the highlights and then get you to read the book later. So that's our workshop material.
So one of them was for athletes?
Yes.
And one of them was for coaches?
And one for parents. And we actually have two different ones for parents, one for high school and one for youth, because the issues are just so different for those parenting kids at the high school level versus the youth level. Okay, thanks.